So welcome back to the Courage and FS show. This is season 2, episode 9. We were talking about the law and juries and trials, and we're still on this. We're not done yet. So a few things I want to mention. I know you just mentioned this on the break, but it's kind of weird that you need to have sketch artists in U.S. Courts, because you're not allowed to take photographs. And I also think it's kind of weird that juries exist, and the fact that the jury selection has become an art, and kind of how you have gerrymandering. It's very much in favor for lawyers to pick precincts that are in their favor for a certain outcome. And I don't know if this is true, but like, I haven't seen class action lawsuits outside the United States, But that is also something that is like the state of the United States law system is so complex that the aspects we're talking about it, we know from our own research. But if you actually did study law, like there are so many endless possibilities that one, by the time you finish studying it, you would need, I would assume, around 6 years. And two, to be able to be a lawyer, you can't just focus on one kind of law. So you need to know all of it.
Exactly.
It would honestly, like, just that would make you depressed, But let's get into this a little bit more.
Yeah, man, it would make you depressed, I think, because even myself, I think when we talk about how law is interesting, right? Mm-hmm. We're almost always thinking of criminal law.
Yeah.
Like, we've never had a discussion where we're talking about how fascinating civil procedures or civil courts are, where someone who owns for damages for stepping on their property or trespass, and they got the other party got awarded a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really interest anyone. I doubt the people who are doing it are interested in it even. It's just like the most boring thing. Like they call it torts, right?
Yeah.
Like what happens in civil courts, like when you bring some kind of when you do something to damage the other party, right? To hurt the other party, they can sue for civil damages. Like that's like very boring stuff,
Yeah, tort law is honestly like, it's not very intuitive as to what it means. So I used to be intrigued till I found out what it actually stands for.
Yeah, man, and it's just it's funny because tort and it's like a word in French, and it means wrong. Like if you say "je tort," I'm wrong. And the idea is like that it's to settle wrongdoings. Like if someone has wronged you, you can take them to a civil court. Like on the one hand, I like that they are efficient. Like criminal trials can take years sometimes, in many cases even decades. They can go on for like over a decade and there's no real outcome. And it can sometimes take years just for the case to get to court. In fact, it usually does take years for the case to get to court. You think about what happened with George Floyd, right? Like that happened in 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or no, was it 2016? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. No, maybe.
But yeah, man. I mean, the case didn't go to court until many years later, right?
Yeah.
So civil courts are more efficient. Like even in India, man, if you want to bring a civil case against someone, the hearing will be like the next day, like because there's a 1 day, even if it takes a year to bring the same case to a criminal court. You can have a civil case like booked in like a day, But on the other hand, man, it doesn't make for an interesting like area of study.
No.
And the problem is like you said, man, if you're a lawyer, like if you're studying law, if you want to be a lawyer, even if you are only interested in criminal law, you still have to study everything else, including things estate law, divorce law, personal injury law, and like just the most boring, like mind-numbing shit. You still have to study it.
Yeah, and dude, like in terms of civil courts, I think family courts is worse. And I think, corporate law is pretty interesting, but I don't think corporate courts are all that interesting either. Or contract law.
Man.
Contract law is alright. Like, contract law, sometimes it gets interesting.
Fair. Yeah, man. It does. Like, in that video especially, I never thought I would find contracts interesting.
Yeah.
But, the professor is really good, right? I love his energy. Like, really,
he's on something.
He's probably on coke, on Ritalin or Adderall, man. That's very common.
Yeah.
Bro, every lawyer has done Ritalin or Adderall to get through some like all-nighters,
Dude, Scooby-Doo की थी यार, तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है?
नहीं, बिल्कुल, he's definitely on some uppers, कोई stimulant तो उसने मतलब sniff किए हैं, बेशक these, but बंदा on रहता, he really brings the energy up, and that's another in that one case that he does, right? The first case in contract law, like where, do you remember this one where they're they're just having a few drinks and they on the piece of tissue, like he signs, right? Like that I agree to sell this to you.
Yeah, the farm. What was the name of the case? No, I
it was in like Virginia.
Yeah. It's for the $50,000 for the farm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
It was like a landmark case in contracts. And things like that, man. It does definitely makes it interesting.
But can I ask you, what was your instinct on that one? Like, to me, the moment I heard it, like, I knew what the judgment should be. But to hear about how many, this is what I don't get. This is what I don't get. Is if you're a lawyer, you can't go with instinct. You have to think of all the possibilities and then explain like you're talking to idiots as to why your point holds. You know what I mean? Yeah,
man. And like they can point so many holes in your argument, and you need to be able to like defend them at the whim.
Exactly. Like, in my opinion, it was straight up. It was a contract. It has to be enforced.
It was.
But
it had all the
exactly. But it was a landmark ruling.
It was, man. Because, I mean, the way I looked at it was it had all the elements of a contract, therefore it's a contract.
Yeah, exactly, the context doesn't matter, should it?
It really doesn't, man.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you can prove that it was under pressure, like under duress.
Yeah, which it wasn't.
And I think that is something that happens in the real world. Like, many contracts are... you obtain consent under duress.
Yeah.
And that is a possibility. That is something you should look at.
Yeah.
But in this case, by their own admission, they said there was no like pressure. It's just we were like intoxicated. We were just having a fun time.
When idiots are stressing your law, you have a problem.
Yeah, man, definitely.
If clever people are gaming the system, I get it. But when idiots are stressing the system, something's wrong.
But yeah, dude, it's an interesting case for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of what really put me off this is that, I always thought of law interesting because I was only thinking of criminal law, right? Like everything else, like estates, family law, divorce especially, man. Like
so annoying.
This stuff is just kind of like boring, and I can't really see it being enjoyable.
Yeah.
And even criminal law, man, even though it makes for a great area of study, like if you're actually practicing in that field, man, you're dealing with some like very heavy shit,
Yeah.
Like, dude, if you've seen like, man, just the stuff that police and prosecutors see on an everyday basis,
Agreed.
It's like some terrifying shit,
It is. And for a long time, TV shows, they constantly have like the DA and the DA's office. Like, it actually takes you a while to figure out what the DA actually does,
Yeah, man, it's a good point. The district attorney, like, even though it's like quite prestigious, like it's a very like it's a high status job to hold. Like, but it's still like, what do they do exactly? You know, and I've seen many incompetent prosecutors as well. Like many of them are just shit at building a case, you know, and it's no surprise because they get paid very little, right? Like public prosecutors, I don't think they make that much money. But then there's also like, other than prosecutors, there's also on the other side, there's public defendants as well. That's what Saul Goodman did before becoming like, you know, starting his own firm.
But public
he was like a public
also,
defendant.
They do a shit job also.
Yeah, man, and they get paid peanuts, you know, because they're like on the government's bankroll. And
dude, like, can you imagine the Miranda rights? Because that doesn't exist in any other country. You don't get radio rights when you get, you know, arrested. But again, this is all just weird to the United States, and like most kids, like us even, we knew all the Miranda rights from movies, man. That's how big it was.
Yeah, man, it's so like it's such a, you know, widespread theme in like Hollywood and like TV shows as well. Especially if you watch ones that are like realistic, like say The Wire, you know. Like the whole show only makes sense if you have some understanding of like U.S. criminal law, you know, like things like subpoenas, like you have to get a subpoena on to like, you know, tap someone's phone. To do surveillance on people, you know, you need to get like a subpoena from a judge, you know.
It's so weird that you have to deliver a subpoena as well, isn't it? Like you can't just get sent a notice.
Yeah, that's right. I think, you're right. And like, if it's like, say they have it on your door, right? They come and paste it on your door, then that counts as like them having delivered it to you.
Oh, right. That's weird.
Yep. But you're right. That's definitely a very like weird thing, you know? Even like with summons in India, you might have heard of. Summons in Indian court when you're, you know, summoned before a judge, even that has to be delivered to you. If it's not, it doesn't count, you know.
सीधे मैसेज करते हैं bro. क्यों ये सब करते हैं?
नहीं वो तो है यार, but this stuff is, man, interesting. Like our understanding of the law, you know. I think most of us would know more about U.S. law than we would about our own countries, you know.
I agree. Like the IPC is not something I know anything about. Like मुझे पता ही नहीं मैं कितने laws मतलब break किया हूँ कर रहा हूँ कुछ पता नहीं भाई.
मुझे एक पता है, and there's reasons for that, but it's the Indian Penal Code 420, Joshua, because that's the penalty for cheating. Like any kind of like fraud or cheating or impersonation. Not impersonation, sorry, but fraud or cheating. It's Joshua, you know, that's why इसको Joshua कहते हैं.
यार काफी अजीब है ना. Like it really is weird how many numbers have the exact same meaning across so many cultures.
Yeah, man. I mean, that one in India is just, you know, it became like it started with the criminal code, right? I mean, the police code, a penal code, sorry. And then it became like just a saying, you know, like people say, ye banda chaasubisi karta hai, you know, he does some kind of like cheating. But the US has something similar with like 187. It's like, man, in the 90s, like in gangster rap, you know, the 187 became very common. You know 187, right?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
So, इसमें GTA में तो हर, you know, it was so like used so much, like in San Andreas especially. Like, and there was that song on the radio too, you know, it's 187 on the undercover cop.
Nice.
And you don't stop.
Yeah, I remember this one.
But 187 in the California penal code was like was for murder, you know. And a lot of the gangster rappers at the time were based in California, like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, NWA, all of these guys, Tupac, you know?
Yeah.
So 187 became part of slang the way it did in India with Jasubis, you know? But 187 is still so iconic, man. It's like, you know, I'm gonna pull a 187 on this guy.
Nice,
you know,
nice.
You would just hear that in GTA. You would hear that in like the lyrics. These things are pretty cool, man. When you analyze slang, like it's pretty interesting how it starts.
Yeah, how law has an impact on pop culture. But dude, I get what you mean when you say, you know, you've got state laws and you've got federal laws. Like, why? Murder होता है भाई. एक ही common definition रखते हैं बेहतर है. Like, what does the state have to do on this?
यार इसमें पता है क्या है कि एक scene है कि even in murder and there's like first degree, second degree, and third degree, right?
Yeah.
That's where it starts to get a little bit complex, and where states start to disagree on like, well, what constitutes first degree murder versus second and third degree, you know?
Yeah.
And versus like manslaughter, you know?
Yeah.
And they differ in their definitions of those things. Like every jurisdiction would see things differently, you know? Like there's things like, you know, let's say you had like, the intent to injure them but not kill them, then is that like first degree or second degree, you know? Well, because for it to be first degree, you have to have like, I think it's like, there's two things, right? It's like intent and what's the other one?
What's the other one? Means?
Means culpa, or what is it? Something like that, right? Yeah, it's like mens rea and mens something else.
Yeah.
I don't even remember now, but you have to establish both, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets to degrees, which even I don't fully understand, but it's like there can be times when like you didn't intend to kill them.
Yeah.
But then they died as a result of your actions, you know?
Yeah.
And then you could be charged with like third degree murder or like manslaughter, you know?
True.
But then there's jurisdictions which would see that as just murder, you know?
Yeah, but again, it seems like a debate that should be, you know, easily resolved on a federal level. But I just want to mention this because I'll forget this. But there are a few countries in the world where the burden of proof is not on the accuser, you know? Like...
I have heard of that, which I find very bizarre, you know?
It's very bizarre, like, but I can't believe that actually exists. Like, you have to prove you're innocent. ये क्या बात है?
ये तो बड़ा चिटियाप है, bro. I mean, that's fucking crazy, no?
Yeah, I'm sure that's the worst legal system to be in.
यार ये पता नहीं कहाँ होता है. हो सकता है ईरान में, मेरा ख्याल है ईरान में होता है. You know, I'd heard of Iran in this case. क्योंकि वहाँ तो हो भी सकता है. You know, I could see that happening. I think they were one of the countries. But honestly, man, when you think about like frivolous lawsuits, like you're talking about defamation suits, right? Like malicious defamation suits, where they're only like, you know, it's only the intent is just to harass you. There it's like, man, even in the end, if nothing comes out of it, like the trial becomes a punishment, you know, like you have to like show up for all of these court attendings. You have to like live according to their terms now, you know, according to the court system's terms. Because now you've been summoned into the legal system, you know. So man, even in the end, if you're found like completely like there's nothing on you, the reason I don't say innocent is because innocent and guilty is like criminal law, right? But in courts, it's not like that. It's like you're not. They don't use the words innocent and guilty, even if you're, you know, you lose the case. It's more of just like in the end, you have to pay the damages, you know? But even if you're the one who's being sued,
Mm-hmm.
like there's the plaintiff and the defendant, right? So even if you're the defendant and nothing's found. It's just like, think of all the time that you spent and all, just the emotional impact, the impact it has on your emotional well-being to just like, you know, keep going to these things when you know that like you've done nothing, you know, nothing wrong. So it's like, yeah, man, that it can definitely be used to like, used against people, like you know, which I think is just unfortunate. And in corrupt jurisdictions, you'll see a lot of it, like really misusing the criminal justice system or just the legal system in general, like using it to settle vendettas against people you don't like, or to silence people who you see as a threat, you know?
Yeah.
These are definitely things I wish were different about the legal system, you know, that there were ways to like really minimize that.
I agree, but the United States system of law has gone vastly unchanged. Yeah, you don't see with time a lot of things changing, but like Brown versus the Board of Education, Roe versus Wade, right? These are all things that have defined the United States in terms of its history. So
They have.
मुझे लगता है कि the judicial system has a lot more impact, but at the same time the judicial system is not, it's a wonderful founding fathers kind of idea where, you know, the law is not just hard and fast, it's open to interpretation, but that is like a Pandora's box, man. The moment you start, anything can be justified subjectively, you know what I mean? But if you were to be a lawyer, I'd say, you know, the United States is probably the place where it's more open, or it's probably the best place to thrive if you're a good lawyer. Because it's not
That's true.
रट नहीं सकते सब.
नहीं वो तो है यार. And T14 is almost like a prerequisite to achieve, like, you know, like true success in law. And there are many ways to define success, right? But again, like most people who go to law school, they're aiming for like big law, you know?
Yeah.
Like the big law firms. Some of them are aiming for government, in which case it would be like, you know, Chief Justice, or like, you know, being a judge, I don't know, or just prosecutor, all of these other jobs. But for the most part, people are aiming like, you know, these are the different ways that you would measure success, right? Like the extent to which people are able to achieve that. And I think T14 is definitely a prerequisite for that, because outside of that, it's very hard to like land some of these positions. Like it's been done, like it's not like impossible. But man, like the top, like big law, for example, right? Like there's firms that only hire from T14. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like you must have seen like how Goldman Sachs often will only hire like Harvard, you know, like Harvard MBAs, right?
Yeah.
Or they this is really something they look for, you know, like when they're hiring, and to really get to the upper echelons. I have one friend who goes to a T14 school.
Nice.
Man, I'm pretty sure it's a T14 school. I'll have to look it up. But do you remember if UPenn? No, sorry. UPenn was on the list.
UPenn wasn't, but it's right there. It's 15 or 16.
Really? No way. This is like because that's the one with. I think their business school is more widely like known.
Wharton. Yeah.
Yeah, Wharton, right?
Yeah, Wharton's the best business school in the world. Yeah, number one.
Yeah, man, Wharton is crazy. You know, I had a professor. And I had two professors who went to Wharton.
Nice.
Both of them in finance, man. One of them was this guy. You know, he was Jewish, right?
Of course.
And he always had funny stories. Like he would start the class with like comics from, you know, what's that one guy, Dilbert?
Dilbert, yeah. God damn it, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Yeah, Dilbert.
he would start class with like a Dilbert comic.
What was he teaching?
He taught many finance courses, man, all the way from like my very first course in finance. Like it was like a 300 level course, like just intro to finance, he taught that one. And then I also had him in my like senior year for corporate investment decisions.
Nice.
A very cool course, completely on finance, different areas of finance, like capital budgeting, capital structure, doing like valuations of companies, DCF, comps, a little bit of options as well.
Nice.
And it was all from this guy, man. Like, having said that, man, the other guy, because this guy, man, he was like an MBA from Wharton, and I think he studied, he started off in chemistry and then gotten an MBA, and then, this other guy, though, that I had that I probably learned the most from was the one I told you about. He was like he was like a former investment banker with like Morgan Stanley. And he'd also worked on the, trading desks at like Bank of America and Merrill Lynch. Man, just, crazy. Like if you ever saw him doing Excel, it was like watching a wizard like cast spells, like.
Dude, I would honestly like to see one of your Excel sheets from university. Like, I don't know.
Dude, I have some now too, but the thing with them is like the presentation isn't very good, but it's like a very it accomplishes like what's its end goal,
No, I want to see, like, I proper admire Excel sheets a lot. Kafi, like, especially if you look at how many consultants, McKinsey bros are out there. Most of their work is Excel, so like you can get paid millions for this Excel work. But I'd love to see something. If you do have it, send it over. I'll look at it, when I have time, just to like admire, Because हम जो Excel इस्तेमाल करते हैं, it's definitely not a finance Excel, so it's not that detailed, but I'd love to see it.
नहीं यार एक दफा बिल्कुल भेजूंगा, and it's like I'll give you an idea of like the ones I make now, since it's only for myself, it's only for my own like investment decision. I don't really put as much work into like presentation, because I know I'm not gonna like present in front of the class or like turn it into the professor or like submit it for an assignment. I know it's only for me to like see if a share is like trading below or above fair value.
Nice.
And so calculate its intrinsic value, basically, Nice. So they're all just financial models, but man, I have a folder that's full of them. Maybe like I've valued maybe like maybe like 500 companies.
Nice. All the
and it's not. Man, most of them are honestly like on the small and mid cap space.
Right.
Like they're not very big stocks, but that's where like I think returns are bigger too. Like because
the percentage is higher.
Yeah, man, because the companies that have already grown, like large caps, the room for growth is much more limited.
Yeah.
But with small and mid caps, like the risk is higher too, but the returns are higher as well.
Yeah.
And if you're able to find like quality businesses in that space, ones that are like, consistently producing a high return on capital, consistently generating free cash flows, and you based on your estimates, you see that they're trading below fair value, it's a good idea to buy it.
I agree.
And it does take some time and work, and a lot of it is like, once you have a model, that's not the end of the job. That you also have to do some like sensitivity analysis to like to see basically, wait, you've done the CFA, so you would know, right?
Yeah.
Like there is like, sensitivity analysis. Like you look at different scenarios where, let's I were to change some of these assumptions, like by how much is that affecting my estimate. And there's one stock, man, that I bought in 2017 at I bought it for like not even 100. It was like 98, right?
Right.
And right now, 6 years later, it's sitting at 2,250.
No way! What? That's 200%, isn't it?
No, it's about 2,200%.
Yeah, 2,200%. Nice.
It was just insane, man. I mean, I wish I'd put more in it, but like I'm just happy I invested in it at all because based on my estimates, it was worth at least 1,000. That was like when I did that. I still have. No, actually, I don't have that laptop anymore. But for the longest time, I'd saved that Excel spreadsheet. Like I did a valuation of this company, and my intrinsic value from back then, was around the range of 800 to 1,000. So I'm like, it's still like got so much room for growth.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and it beat expectations even beyond like what I was thinking. Man, it is like it is an art and a science, like valuation. But there are elements to it that are scientific. Like you can tell quality businesses apart by looking at their financial statements for the most part. There are obviously like accounting gimmicks and couple, that people can do to make a company look more profitable than it is and look more stable than it is. There are accounting tricks and tools that you can use to accomplish that. But for the most part, man, like if you are like valuing a company, like looking at its fundamentals, it is possible to identify like winners in advance, I think.
Yeah. Dude, this is so interesting. I can't believe you've come from law to finance, but
they're more related than we think,
True. सब crime के बारे में होता है, मगर you know what's weird about today? हमने उर्दू में काफ़ी बात नहीं की भाई, and मुझे पता नहीं कि जो जहनियत की काम होते हैं वो हम अंग्रेज़ी में करते हैं और जो दिल की बात है वो उर्दू में सुनाते हैं भाई.
यार ये कमाल की बात किया साहब ने, क्योंकि मेरा ख्याल है ना हमारी उर्दू में वो our vocabulary is limited to like artistic things and creative things. तो अगर हम कोई तकनीकी मौजू पे गुफ्तगू करें ना तो हमें थोड़ी मुश्किल होती है to find the right word, क्योंकि आप समझ सकते हो कि अगर हम वकालत की बात या अगर हम तिजारत या वकालत की बात अगर हम उर्दू में करें तो आसान काम नहीं होगा ये.
यार वाकई और मगर करने से भी कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता, बेहतर है कि इंग्लिश में अंग्रेज़ी में ही बात कर लो, मगर जब दिल की बात आता है ना तो अंग्रेज़ी भी काम नहीं करते भाई. मगर यार काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है जो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल्स की बात आपने कहा था, और it's pretty nice to look at a company from a printout, and kind of evaluate what's going on, where they're going, where they're headed. तो पता नहीं, मगर ये जो आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी में गुजरे हुए वक्त था ना, मुझे लगता है कि the classes you name, I'm surprised. First of all, 8 साल हो गए कि आपको क्लास याद है. दूसरी बात ये है कि यार इतने अच्छे लगते हैं कि मैं अगर फारिग था तो मैं भी अटेंड करता आपके साथ.
नहीं यार, इसका ना पूरा full credit goes to the boys, by the boys I mean my professors.
Yeah, the boys.
लेकिन इसमें ख़वातीन भी थी, I shouldn't say. It's just a very Aussie thing. It's like
the boys, yeah.
You know how like after a cricket match, Inzi bhai कहते थे the boys played well.
हाँ जी.
तो वैसे Australian football होता है, or the AFL, और most of the guys are pretty like like they're not the brightest people in the world, you know, the guys who play AFL.
They're not.
तो उनको इंटरव्यू में जब सवाल पूछते हैं उनको they don't have much to say, you know, they say the same thing every time. It's like, yeah, man, full credit to the boys, like the boys really played well tonight, you know. Nice. Like and in this case, man, I would say the same, you know, full credit to the boys at the university, because I lucked out to have professors who were like truly the best at what they do, you know, like they were really outstanding in their field, like whether it was like finance or later on it was like sociology, like these were people who were like really in like the top 1% of people in their field, you know. Like you could Google them and you would find like a news interview where they're like, you know, like on a panel and like like a journalist is asking them questions, you know, like aapka is pe kya khayal hai, what do you think about, you know, the housing crisis, or, you know, what do you think about this issue? And they're really people who've like gone to the best schools for what they study. Like in his case it was Wharton. There's another professor who went to Duke, you know, and
Duke
and my research supervisor went to Oxford for a PhD. So it is like very like impactful when you learn from people who are like truly the 1% in their fields, in their domains. And that's why I still remember the stuff, you know. And since I use a lot of it for, you know, managing a portfolio, it is like something that I use even like, you know, पता नहीं कितने साल हो गए, 9 साल हो गए, but अभी भी I still use the thing that I learned in that one class.
मगर यार कभी-कभी जिंदगी ऐसे होता है कि यहाँ वहाँ कुछ खास बात तो नजर आता है और भूल नहीं सकते हैं, वाकई सच है. But
education for me is definitely one of them, you know, like to learn from people who are like scholars in their field or truly like outstanding in their field, you know. It's truly a unique opportunity, you know.
मानता हूँ. And even यूनिवर्सिटी के अलावा यार हम ये सब बंदे से करते हैं, मगर ये वॉटन वाले बंदे भी फारिग नहीं है ज़्यादा, तो मिलने में काफ़ी मुश्किल है. But I agree with what you mean. It's so interesting. मगर मुझे फिर भी लग रहा है कि I'm not sure where this law conversation started from. वैसे हमारे तो चल रहा था पिछले हफ्ते पूरे, but यार हम वैसे लॉ भी उर्दू में वकालत तो कर सकते हैं भाई, वो भी
बिल्कुल कर सकते.
हाँ यार,
तो ज़बानी वकालत की थी वैसे एक ज़माने में, you know, in the courts.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, same time.
बिल्कुल यार, मतलब अभी भी जैसे देखते when you watch even Hindi movies, right? They speak like Urdu in courts, you know, rather than Hindi. और बैरिस्टर वगैरह भी उस ज़माने में, you know, they used to be like Urdu speaking. और
सवाल है भाई कि जो पुराने ब्रिटिश कोर्ट्स थे, विग्स क्यों पहनते थे?
हाँ ब्रो, अभी भी पहनते हैं, पता है वो बड़ी अजीब. At the Hague, for example, आपने वहाँ देखा होगा जज बैठकर, सब बड़े वो अजीब उनका हुलिया होता है इधर.
मगर क्यों भाई, ये बाल बढ़ाने की क्या जरूरत है?
But पता है मेरे यार पहचान में कोई था जिनके you know, they even worked at the Hague before.
Nice.
You know,
like वैसे मैं एक बात कहूँ कि the Hague, I know how much you're mentioning it, मगर normal बंदे के कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But there are always these master students in political science or foreign policy or public policy, like Georgetown graduates, yeah. They always have this dream of going to work at the UNHQ in New York.
For sure.
लगता है कि, you know, for lawyers it's probably like the Hague, you know, like the equivalent of that.
But yeah, ये बंदा lawyer नहीं था. He was like he's like a colonel in the army.
Oh my God. War crimes के लिए गए थे क्या?
यार पता नहीं ना उनके यूरोप से काफी उनका कुछ पुराने पहले से कुछ ताल्लुकात था.
ओ यार मुझे एक कहानी याद है कि वो ऑस्ट्रेलियन वाले बंदे हाँ थोड़ा याद है. बताओ.
Yeah. हाँ bro, I mean you know it's crazy man. I mean he ये बंदा है जो यूरोप से है भी नहीं, you know. He was like living there. His like his dad worked there, you know. He had like his dad was had a job there. Like right. He was like employed by like the Australian government to move there. And उसके बावजूद he had like diplomatic immunity in France.
Right.
And actually all over Europe, like France, anywhere in the whole continent. So yeah, man, like he couldn't get arrested for anything anywhere in Europe, you know, even though he wasn't from Europe at all.
Diplomatic immunity is wonderful, buddy. I like the concept very much. You can't have like, you know how an embassy is pretty much, even if it's in another country, it's an extension of the country itself. So they own the land generally. Yeah. It's their laws that apply. So that is very interesting to me. But ये जो बंदा हेग गए थे ना, मैं यार हेग के बारे में उतना ज़्यादा सुना नहीं था. अब काफ़ी एक महीने से पिछले जो साउथ अफ्रीका ने वहाँ गए थे तो मुझे काफ़ी
इसी के बारे में सोचा था.
हाँ उसके अलावा तो मुझे पता है मगर एक सिर्फ लैंडमार्क्स पता है कि कंटिन्यूसली वहाँ जो होते हैं वो पता नहीं. But the Hague is honestly pretty interesting. I haven't got into it yet.
हाँ bro, लैंडमार्क से याद है यार, आपको वो याद होगा जो बोस्निया में एक वो डिक्टेटर हुआ करता था यार. I mean उस वक्त यूगोस्लाविया हुआ करता था ना.
Yeah, before the 90s, yeah.
यार उसका नाम मैं भूल रहा हूँ, but there was a guy who he led the genocide of like Bosnian Muslims.
He did,
you know,
yeah.
like I think he was the leader of Serbia, right?
Yeah.
And they had that like nationalist song too, that Remove Kebab. जो बाद में बहुत मशहूर हो गया था on like 4chan and like, you know, far right. Because you know, it was just like, it's all in Serbian, but it's all about like killing Bosnians, you know. That's the whole song. Yeah, man, proper like genocidal like anthem, you know. And yeah, uska, I remember he got tried at The Hague and was prosecuted, right? Like for war crimes.
No way.
Yeah, he was, man. And the U.S. like intervened in that conflict too, with like Kosovo and, you know, the breakup of Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
And that's why there are many Bosnian refugees in America. Like by now they're like, you know, I guess like second or third generation.
Yeah.
But yeah, uska bhi trial wahi hua tha. I mean, that's the one landmark case that I know that was successfully tried at The Hague.
Yeah, that is true. The Hague is very useless, isn't it?
Yeah, ye wale bhi the yaar, man. There are some former Nazis that were tried at The Hague as well.
You remember the Nuremberg trials? Where did those take place? In Nuremberg, obviously. I'm so dumb. Yeah, apologies. But
yaar, ek to tha na, Israel ne, they went to Argentina. You must have heard of this, right? Like Adolf Eichmann.
Yeah, to try the guys who moved to South America, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, all of them moved to Argentina, man. Like many of the Nazis. And man, this is where we come to that thing about witness protection, right? I do think, man, like if the mafia had like Israeli intelligence,
they could find them.
Yeah, and honestly, man, there are like private investigators who are ex-Mossad.
Yeah, I've seen ex-Mossad guys quite often.
Yeah, definitely, man. In fact, you know Harvey Weinstein, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd hired like some like this one firm to do surveillance on some of his like victims, and that was a private investigation firm that was like run by ex Mossad guys. And with Adolf Eichmann, that's what happened, man. Normally he would be tried at The Hague for like war crimes, but since Israel like captured him, they tried him in their own courts. But yeah, these guys, like, you know, they completely abandoned their previous identities. They cut off all contact with Germany. They changed their names and everything, completely like mixed into like the local population. Because even most Argentinians are white, you know, like they are Asian, so they blend in pretty well. And despite that, man, they managed to uncover their identities and actually catch them and, you know, like take them back.
They were doxxed. Yeah. It's not
man.
Ununderstandable. Like there's a few Twitter accounts where if you post a 360-degree view, the guy will tell you where you are. That's how easy it is.
I know what you mean, man. Like, but back then it wasn't like, even the tools to find people weren't that sophisticated.
True.
Like now surveillance and intelligence has gotten better too, you know, like electronic surveillance as well, especially. Have you heard of Pegasus?
If we're about to foray into something that is very, very deep, buddy, but I love the fact that Pegasus has... It's sometimes when I talk to people about cybersecurity and Pegasus, they get their minds blown. कि उन्हें समझ ही नहीं आता कि without clicking on something, how you can have entire phone hacked.
That's crazy though about this too, man. You've been down this rabbit hole too, man. Fuck.
Yeah. हम एक ही बंदे हैं भाई.
Okay, yeah, just two sides of the same coin, you know.
हाँ. एक यार वो dialogue था ना एक फिल्म के कि एक ही सिक्के के दोनों तरफे थे, but I don't know which movie that's from, or it's from a song. मगर था कहीं.
That's you know, your heads on tails, you know.
Nice, but dude, Pegasus is proper interesting because आजकल मैं ये काफ़ी फजूल है, मगर like काफ़ी देर से कोई ना कोई बंदा मेरे Instagram हैक करने की कोशिश में है, हाँ. तो हर रात मुझे 10 मैसेज आता है कि मैं देखता नहीं, ये आजकल की बात नहीं, काफ़ी 2 महीने से चल रहा है. तो मुझे मैसेज आता है कि you know there's a login from your account or suspected like a failed login. तो आते रहते मैं तो सिर्फ इस सोच में पड़ा था कि एक, भाई तुम्हें ये क्यों चाहिए, दूसरे तुम इतने नालायक क्यों है, तीसरे like अगर आपको मिला ना तो रख लो, मुझे भी नहीं चाहिए.
पक्का यार माज कर रही होगी ये हरकतें
यार.
और कोई हो ही नहीं सकता.
हाँ नहीं, मेरे काफ़ी दुश्मन है, मगर Pegasus is proper interesting because मुझे याद है कि मेरे पास तो BlackBerry था, शायद आपके पास भी हुए होंगे किसी ज़माने में, and the kind of security that the BlackBerry offered was great, you know. कि आजकल की जो फ़ोन्स है उसकी सिक्योरिटी काफ़ी ख़राब है भाई. कि मेरे वैसे काफ़ी मसले हैं कि मैं जिस तरीके की बंदे से काम करता हूँ वो इंटेलिजेंस की बंदे होता है. So I'm not always allowed to take my phone here and there. I'm not allowed to take photographs from certain places. I'm not allowed to send a few things as well. और मेरे जो conversations है, मेरे जो text messages है, सब tracked है, सही. तो my data, traffic, everything's being tracked. मगर मुझे ये पता था कि मैं जब 22 उस वक्त में काम करने शुरू की कि एक बंदा था, फहद मलकी नाम था उसका, वो तो ये काम करता था, तो he wanted to show off, so he showed me how the system worked. तो उसकी बाद मुझे वो काफ़ी साल पहले, तो उसकी बाद मुझे पता था कि कितने capabilities होते हैं और how easy it is for a government to track what you're saying, what you're doing. But Pegasus ने वो सब छोड़ दी. कि ये अलग ही लेवल की मतलब उसकी खिलाफ जो भी था ना, अब ऐसे हो गया कि जो इंडियन कॉल सेंटर वाले स्कैम बंदे हैं और पेगासस एक तरफ है, कि एक बिल्कुल नालायक, एक काफी लायक है भाई.
Yeah, Pegasus तो अलग ही लेवल का है, you know, and it only cost $7 million, जो बहुत ही कमाल की चीज है, you know, because it's not that much money.
Yeah, for R&D it's not. Yeah.
हाँ bro, मतलब हुकूमतों के अलावा मतलब ये तो कोई it's within the reach of even organizations, you know,
और कोई
to have to track everything that's going on in your life, and ये मतलब it used to be that, you know how Max, you've heard of Max Weber, right?
Yeah.
So he's got like he's got a saying about the state, that, you know, the state has a monopoly on violence, that, you know, and that's a famous famous thing about, you know, what constitutes a state, right? And then that's really the most, like, at the most fundamental level, that's what a state is. It's the institution that has monopoly on violence.
Yeah.
And the same thing extends to surveillance as well. Like, you know, traditionally it's only states that have had the monopoly on surveillance. Like, you know, they're the only ones who are legally allowed to like spy on you to, if you're like suspected of doing something that's not allowed.
Yeah.
And no one else really has like that right, you know? Whereas with the surveillance technology now and how accessible it is, especially things like Pegasus, where anyone with a budget of $7 million, you know, which could be like a company even, they can buy it and like spy on people they don't like, you know.
I agree. I mean, the possibilities are endless, man. Kitne log par, to be honest, if I were to ask you, right, would you like to have that kind of information of the people in your life or no? Like, जो personal रिश्ते या ताल्लुक होता है, would you like to know or no?
No, man. Like, mostly just out of respect, you know?
Oh, अब तो तमीज़ की बंदे निकले. मैं यहाँ say. But here's what I thought, right? Like, समझो कि आपकी कोई बंदी है, ऐसे कुछ है, right? और समझो कि वो वफादार है, फिर भी आप अगर उसकी फ़ोन या उसकी जो कॉन्वर्सेशन से ये पढ़ी ना, तो यार उसकी बात हमेशा वो एहसासत पुराने वाले कभी नहीं मिल सकता कि you will read something that you didn't know, कि वो ख़ता भी नहीं होंगे, but it changes your perception of them, and it's not a good thing.
Exactly. नहीं, बात सब सही कह दी यार आपने, क्योंकि I was going to say, man, that ये मैं तजुर्बे से कह रहा हूँ, क्योंकि एक दफ़ा ऐसा हुआ था यार कि, you know, I exchanged like passwords with a girl I was dating, you know. I was in
काफी चुतिया पे के दिन था.
सही में यार, मतलब हमने एक सोचा क्यों नहीं ऐसा कर सकते हैं, you know, we trust each other, and even though we trusted each other and, you know, we kept that trust, काफी आप चीजें देखते हैं जो where your mind just like will read it, misinterpret it, you know. And that's what happened with me too, you know. I really instantly regretted it. I'm like, yeah, I wish we hadn't done this, because even though like it's like, you know, I have nothing to like, you know, I didn't see anything that I thought was wrong. I still feel like this is not good, you know, that a lot of this stuff I'm going to overthink a lot of the stuff that I saw. But yeah, on a slightly unrelated note, I'm looking at the T14, right?
Right.
And dude, UPenn is on it, man.
Oh, my bad.
UPenn, U Michigan Law, U Virginia Law, Yale, obviously, Stanford, obviously,
Harvard, yeah.
Harvard, Duke, Cornell, Columbia, and Berkeley, which is, you know, you'd expect, and also Northwestern, which is a really good school.
Northwestern, nice.
But still, man, I mean,
no, my bad.
You know, I was gonna say Virginia is always there, and it's pretty. I find it interesting, but that Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a state, it's so like it's got two extremes, right? On the one hand,
Mm-hmm.
it's like very well renowned for like education.
Yeah.
Like there's Virginia just as a whole, and Virginia law in particular,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Virginia Tech, which you might remember from the shooting.
Yeah.
Which is also a great tech school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also home to like, some of the best places to live in the country. Like if you look at this place called Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah.
It's like the richest district in the whole, like Fairfax County. It's the richest county in the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one ranked high school in the country is in Virginia.
How do you know this?
I've read a lot about it. I also had a really good friend from Virginia that we both really liked each other, and but yeah, anyway, it's like it's like she actually went to that same public school, man, which was like it's a public school, but it's like because it's in such a wealthy like school district, they're very well funded, and it's like ranked number one in the whole country, and like the average income there is like something like 150K or something crazy shit like that, and that's like one side of Virginia. It's also home to the FBI, which is like Quantico, Virginia, which is huge, like these two things. I'm always blown away that it's home to like some of the most smartest and like richest minds in America, but at the same time, it's also like it was home to the Confederacy. So like during the Civil War, like the center was like Virginia, so they were like the advocates for slavery and for continuing this like these systems that they had in place. And on the one hand, they were like so like ahead, and on the other hand, it's so backward, like
I like the duality. Yeah,
there is a duality. That's what it is, man. And once you get to West Virginia, it's completely like hick, it's like like trash.
But in all honesty, like the entire University of West Virginia was founded by Thomas Jefferson. So it's like a dream he had for a better Virginia, and the other side that he talked about is what it actually is. So,
Exactly, man. It's just such a shithole, West Virginia. It's like there's Virginia and then there's West Virginia,
दोनों खराब है, मगर एक दूसरे से थोड़ी और खराब है.
एक तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा खराब है और Virginia में there's like extremes, It's like America as a whole, I think, as well. I know this is बात की गुफ्तगू काफी it's been American centric, but then again, like all of like pop culture and discourse is quite American centric. But ये बात तो है कि यार क्या बात हो रही थी?
Virginia. Magar, we're at the 1 hour mark, so would you call this one? What was this even about?
What was that?
What was this even about?
Yeah, good question, man. I mean, ज़्यादातर किस पे बात हुई है हमारी?
कि काफी कुछ हुआ है, मगर The Hague तो था, law. We started with law, I think, but.
And Pegasus as well.
Pegasus भी था, यार वाकई, मगर बात तो क्या
करें यार, सोचते हैं.
In 40 seconds. I can't think of one for this, honestly. Like, I don't know.
How about snakes, surveillance, and saazish?
Nice. I like how there's not a word of Urdu we spoke in this, but it's in the title. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been season 2, episode 9 of the Karshan FS show. Snakes, surveillance, and saazish. We'll see you in the next one.